The space station called Horizon's Edge floated in the darkness between three star systems. It was a place where aliens from many worlds came to trade, talk, and make deals. Hundreds of different species walked through its metal halls every day. Some had scales, some had fur, some had no bodies at all and floated like ghosts made of light. Park had lived on this station for 8 months. She was a human woman, 32 years old, with short black hair and eyes that noticed everything. Her job was simple on paper. She helped different species talk to each other. She solved small problems before they became big ones. She smiled at aliens who scared her and kept her voice calm when she wanted to scream. But today, something happened that made her forget all her training. She was walking through the lower corridors of the station. These hallways were darker than the main areas. The lights flickered sometimes. Most species avoided this place after the station's night cycle began, but had heard a small, sad sound, like a child crying. She followed the sound around a corner and found. His species looked like a mix between a cat and a small deer, covered in soft gray fur. They had large eyes that took up half their faces and long ears that could hear sounds from very far away. They were known across the galaxy for two things. They were brilliant engineers who could fix any machine, and they were physically weak. Their bones were hollow. Their muscles were thin. A human child could hurt an adult without trying. Was young, even by standards. He had come to the station 3 months ago as part of an engineering team, had taken a liking to him right away. He was curious and kind. He asked her questions about Earth with wide, wondering eyes. He showed her pictures of his home world, a place with low gravity where they could almost fly. Now he sat on the cold floor, shaking so hard that his fur rippled like water. Knelt beside him. She kept her voice soft. She had learned that loud sounds hurt ears. "What happened? Are you hurt?" He looked up at her. His large eyes were wet with tears. He did not speak. Instead, he slowly turned his body to show her his left shoulder. Someone had burned a mark into his fur. The burned skin beneath was red and raw. The mark was a simple shape, 3 lines that crossed each other inside a broken circle. It looked almost like a target. Felt her stomach turn cold. She had seen this mark before. She had read about it in the cultural files she studied when she first came to the station. She had hoped the files were wrong. She had hoped it was just an old story that was no longer true. "The hunt mark," she whispered. Nodded, his whole body shook harder. "They came to my room," he said. His voice was barely louder than breathing. "3 of them. They held me down. They said I was chosen. They said I was weak and the weak must be removed. They said I have 1 station cycle to leave. If I stay after that, they will hunt me." Who asked, but she already knew. Pointed upward. Looked up. The corridor had an observation deck above it, a walkway where anyone could stand and look down. 3 figures stood there now, watching. They were massive creatures, nearly 3 meters tall. Their bodies were covered in scales the color of dark blood. They had 4 arms and 4 eyes. Their mouths were full of teeth that never stopped growing. They came from a world with gravity twice as strong as Earth. Everything about them was built for killing. The leader of the 3 was named, knew him. Everyone on the station knew him. He led the trade delegation. He spoke softly and smiled often. He made deals that seemed fair until you read them carefully. He scared everyone but pretended not to notice. Looked down at him, he smiled. It was not a nice smile, it showed too many teeth. Felt fear rise in her chest, but she had learned long ago that fear was just a feeling. She could feel it and still choose what to do. She stood up slowly. She did not look away from. "I see you," she said. Her voice was steady. Tilted his head. He seemed amused. Then he turned and walked away. The other 2 followed him into the shadows. Help stand. She walked him to the medical bay where a robot doctor cleaned his wound and wrapped it in white bandages. The whole time, did not speak. He just stared at nothing with his big, wet eyes. Later sat with him in her small apartment. She gave him hot tea. She wrapped a blanket around his thin shoulders. She waited until his shaking stopped. "Tell me everything," she said. "Tell me about this hunt." Spoke slowly. He told her what his people knew about the tradition. The hunt mark was very old. It came from the time before they had spaceships. On their home world, they would mark the weakest members of other species. Then they would hunt them. They believed this made both species stronger. The weak died. The strong survived. When they joined the galactic community, they were told to stop. The law was clear. You could not hunt other thinking beings, but they found ways to continue in secret. They marked victims on distant stations. They chose people who had no powerful friends, people whose species would not fight back. No one who received the hunt mark had ever survived. Some tried to run, they found them. Some tried to hide, they found them too. Some tried to fight. They died fastest. And no one helped. The other species looked away. They pretended not to see. They were too powerful. Their trade was too important, and the victims were always weak, always alone. "But I am not alone," said suddenly. He looked up at, "I have you. You are my friend. You will help me." Looked at this small, gentle creature. He had done nothing wrong. His only crime was being born into a body that could not fight, and now monsters wanted to hunt him for sport. Something hard and cold settled in his heart. It was not fear. It was something older, something that humans had carried with them since they first walked under the stars of Earth. "Yes," she said, "I will help you, I promise." She did not know yet what she would do, but she knew one thing for certain. They had made a mistake. They thought was alone. They thought no one would stand with him. They thought they could hunt in the shadows without anyone caring. They were wrong. The next morning, went to the station administrator's office. The administrator was a creature called a Pelion. It looked like a floating jellyfish made of blue light. It had no face that could read. It spoke through a machine that turned its thoughts into words. Showed the administrator the pictures she had taken of his wound. She explained what the hunt mark meant. She asked for protection for and punishment for the who had hurt him. The administrator listened. Then it spoke. "This is a difficult situation. We understand your concern. The marking of other species is not acceptable behavior. However, we must consider the larger picture." The larger picture kept her voice calm. A young man was attacked, he was burned, he was threatened with death. Yes, and that is regrettable, but the delegation represents significant trade interests. Their ships carry goods worth billions of credits. If we accuse them without solid proof, they may leave. Other species may follow. The station's economy could collapse. Stared at the floating creature. "So you will do nothing." "We did not say that. We can arrange emergency transport for the. We can have him off the station within 6 cycles. He will be safe." "And what about the next person they mark? And the one after that?" The administrator was silent for a long moment. "We cannot solve every problem. We can only manage the situations before us." Left the office without saying goodbye. Her hands were shaking, not from fear, from anger. She walked through the station without seeing where she was going. Her mind was spinning. She thought about his face. She thought about his smile. She thought about all the other victims she had read about in the files. All the weak, gentle people who had been hunted and killed while the galaxy looked away. She found herself standing outside the quarters of. He was another human on the station. He worked in security. He was tall and broad-shouldered with a serious face and kind eyes. Had known him since training back on Earth. She trusted him. She pressed the button to call him. He opened the door and immediately saw something was wrong. "Come in," he said. "Tell me." She told him everything. The mark, the hunt, the administrator's response. As she spoke, his face grew darker and darker. "This is wrong," he said when she finished. "But what can we do? They are dangerous. We are not soldiers. We have no army. We cannot fight them." "I know," sat on his small couch and put her head in her hands. I promised I would help him, but I do not know how." That night did not sleep. She sat at her computer and read everything she could find about culture. She read their history. She read their laws. She read their hunting traditions. She read until her eyes burned and the station's lights dimmed for the night cycle. And then she found something. It was buried in an old academic paper written by a scholar. The paper explained the deep meaning of the hunt mark. It was not just a threat. It was a claim. The who placed the mark was saying, "This prey belongs to me. No one else can hunt it. It is mine." But claims could be challenged. If another hunter placed the same mark on themselves, they were saying, "I am the same as this prey. If you hunt them, you must hunt me too. We are equals in weakness. We stand together." This had never been used to protect prey. The tradition existed for who wanted to share a hunt, but the words were clear. The mark connected all who carried it. Read the passage again and again. Her heart was beating fast. An idea was forming in her mind. It was a crazy idea. It might get her killed, but it was the only idea she had. She stood up. She walked to the medical bay. It was empty at this hour. The robot doctors waited silently in their charging stations. Sat in a chair and activated one of the medical machines. She programmed it carefully. Then she pulled up her sleeve and held out her right arm. "Begin procedure," she said. The machine hummed. A small tool extended from its body. The tool glowed red with heat, closed her eyes and bit down on a piece of cloth to stop herself from screaming. The pain was terrible. It felt like fire eating her skin. The smell of burning flesh filled her nose. Tears ran down her cheeks, but she did not pull away. She held still until the machine beeped and the tool pulled back. She looked at her arm. There it was, 3 lines crossing inside a broken circle, the hunt mark, burned into her flesh just like it was burned into his shoulder. She wrapped the wound in clean bandages. Her hands were shaking. Her whole body was covered in cold sweat. But when she looked in the mirror, she saw something in her eyes that had not been there before. She was not afraid anymore. Found her an hour later. He stared at her bandaged arm with horror. "What did you do? What did you do?" "I marked myself." Her voice was calm, almost peaceful. "The same mark, the same meaning. Now and I are connected. If they want to hunt him, they have to hunt me too. You put a target on yourself, they will kill you." Maybe smiled. It was a strange smile, sad and fierce at the same time. Or maybe they will think twice, because killing is easy. No one cares, but killing a human on a station full of witnesses, that is something different. Shook his head. "This is madness." "No, this is choice." Touched her bandaged arm. The pain was still there, burning under the white cloth. For too long, the weak have had no one to stand with them. The hunt because no one stops them, because everyone is too scared or too selfish to care. But I care, and I am not scared anymore. She walked past toward the door. "Where are you going?" he called. "To show the what I have done. To tell them that if they want to hunt weakness, they will have to hunt me first." Watched her go. He did not try to stop her. He knew that look in her eyes. He had seen it before, in soldiers and heroes and fools. It was the look of someone who had made a decision and would not turn back. He whispered a prayer to gods he was not sure he believed in. Then he followed her into the corridor. Whatever happened next, she would not face it alone. News spread through the station like fire through dry grass. A human woman had marked herself with the hunt symbol. She had done it on purpose. She was either very brave or very crazy. Maybe both. Aliens who had never noticed before now stopped to stare at her as she walked through the corridors. Some looked at her with confusion, some with fear, a few with something that might have been respect. The delegation sent her a message. They thanked her for standing with. They also begged her to leave the station before it was too late. They said she did not understand what they would do to her. Read the message and deleted it. On the morning of the 3rd day, a messenger came to her quarters. It was a young male, smaller than but still massive compared to any human. He handed her a metal plate with words carved into it. Commander invites you to meet with him in the section. You will come alone. You will come now. Stepped forward. She is not going anywhere alone. The messenger looked at him like he was looking at an insect. The invitation is for the marked one only. Anyone else who enters territory will be treated as an enemy. Put her hand on his arm. It is okay, I will go. This is a trap. Probably, but I did not mark myself just to hide in my room. She gave him a small smile. If I do not come back in 2 hours, tell the other humans what happened. Tell everyone. She followed the messenger through the station. They went deeper and deeper into sections she had never visited. The air grew warmer. The gravity grew heavier. Her legs felt like they were made of stone. Each step took more effort than the last. This was the section. They kept it at the same conditions as their home world. It was meant to make other species weak and uncomfortable. It was meant to remind visitors that they were not welcome. Kept walking. Sweat ran down her face. Her lungs burned, but she did not slow down. Finally, they reached a large room. The walls were covered with things that made stomach turn. Skulls of different shapes and sizes. Pieces of fur and hide stretched on frames. Weapons stained with old blood. These were hunting trophies. Each one had belonged to a living, thinking being. Each one had been killed for sport. Sat on a raised platform at the far end of the room. He was even larger than remembered. His 4 eyes watched her with cold interest. 2 others stood beside him. She recognized them from the observation deck, and the ones who had helped Mark. Walked forward until she stood at the base of the platform. She had to look up to meet's eyes. Her neck ached from the angle. Her body screamed at her to run. She ignored it. You came, said. His voice was deep and rough like rocks grinding together. I thought you might be smarter. You invited me. It would be rude to refuse. His mouth twisted. It might have been a smile. You marked yourself with our symbol. Do you understand what you have done? I understand perfectly. Pulled back her sleeve and showed the fresh wound on her arm. The burn was still red and angry. It would leave a scar. She wanted it to. You marked because he is weak. You said the weak must be removed, but here is the problem. She met's eyes without looking away. If is weak enough to hunt, then so am I. I am smaller than him. I am slower. I have no claws, no scales, no natural weapons. By your logic, I am the weakest creature in this room. Made a sound that might have been a laugh. She admits she is prey. I admit nothing. I am telling you the truth. Took another step forward. Her voice did not shake. You put your mark on the weakest cub. I put the same mark on myself. By your own traditions, we are now the same. You cannot hunt one without hunting the other. Leaned forward, his 4 eyes narrowed. You think our traditions will protect you. Human, you do not understand. Traditions are for the strong to use against the weak. They do not protect prey. They only give the hunt meaning. Then hunt me. The words fell into silence. Even the other looked surprised. Hunt me, repeated. Right now, here in your territory, kill me if you can. I will not run. I will not hide. You are either very brave or very stupid, said. I am neither. I am just tired. His voice was quiet now, almost sad. Tired of watching the strong hurt the weak. Tired of living in a galaxy where no one helps each other. Tired of pretending that none of this is my problem. She looked up at again. You want to hunt weakness? Then hunt me. But understand what comes next. Right now, there are 17 humans on this station. If you kill me, every single one of them will carry this mark by tomorrow morning. And so will every human who comes after. You think we fear humans? Stepped forward, his claws scraping on the metal floor. I think you should. Did not step back. You can hunt one human. Maybe you can even hunt 17. But can you hunt our ships when they stop coming to this station? Can you hunt our trade when it disappears? Can you hunt our anger when we decide that your people are our enemies? She paused to let her words sink in. Humans have a long memory, Commander. We remember our friends, but we remember our enemies even longer. You think he has no one to stand for him. You are wrong. He has me. And through me, he has my entire species. Stared at her for a long moment. The room was completely silent. Could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. She could feel sweat running down her back. She could feel the weight of his gaze like a physical force pressing down on her. Then did something unexpected. He laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound that shook the walls. You have courage, little human, more courage than sense, but courage is something we respect. He stood from his platform and walked down to stand in front of her. He was so tall that had to bend her neck all the way back to see his face. You have given me much to think about. Go now. Return to your section. I will send for you again when I have made my decision. It was not a victory, but it was not defeat either. Nodded once, turned, and walked out of the room. She kept her back straight and her steps steady until she was out of territory. Then she leaned against a wall and let herself shake. 2 days passed, then 3, waited in her quarters, barely sleeping, jumping at every sound. She kept her communicator close at all times. She made sure stayed with the delegation, surrounded by his own people. If they were going to attack, she wanted to be ready. But no attack came. Instead, something strange happened. Other species on the station began to treat her differently. A group of traders from a reptile species she had never spoken to nodded at her as she passed. An elderly scientist from a plant-like species stopped her in a corridor just to touch her hand and say thank you. A delegation of small, furry creatures who usually avoided all contact with larger species sent her a gift of dried fruits from their home world. Word of what she had done was spreading, and it was changing how people saw humans. On the 4th day, summoned her again. This time insisted on coming as far as he could. He walked with her to the edge of territory, then stopped. I will wait here, he said. If you are not back in 1 hour, I am coming in after you. They will kill you. Then they will kill me. His face was hard. I am tired of watching the strong hurt the weak too. Touched his arm. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she turned and walked into the hot, heavy air of the section. The same young messenger led her to the same trophy room. But this time, the room was not empty. Nearly 30 stood along the walls. They were silent and still, watching her with their 4 eyes like predators watching prey. Waited on his platform, but he did not sit. He stood at the edge looking down at her. You have caused problems for me, human, he said. Many of my people want to hunt you. They say you have insulted our traditions. They say you should die screaming. And what do you say? Was silent for a moment. I say you have done something I did not expect. You made me think. He stepped down from the platform and walked toward her. The other parted to let him pass. He stopped an arm's length away and looked down at her. I have been hunting for many years. I have killed prey on a dozen worlds. I have taken trophies from species that no longer exist. I believe this made me strong. I believe the hunt was sacred. He paused. His 4 eyes seemed to look through her. But you showed me something. You showed me that even the weakest creature can have value, not because of what they can do, but because of who stands with them. Waited, she did not dare to hope. I have decided, continued. The called will not be hunted. His mark will be changed. Instead of the mark of prey, he will carry the mark of the worthy. Felt her heart jump. The mark of the worthy. It is old, older than the hunt itself. In ancient times, when a prey animal showed great courage or wisdom, we would spare it. We would mark it as worthy of respect. No could ever hunt it again. You would do this for... His mouth twisted into something that was almost a smile. I would do this because you taught me something, human. You taught me that weakness is not always what it seems. He is small and fragile. He cannot fight. He cannot run. But he has a friend who would burn her own flesh to protect him. That is not weakness. That is strength I did not expect. He turned and walked back to his platform. When he reached the top, He turned to face her again. There is one more thing. You carry the hunt mark. By tradition, you are still prey, but I offer you a choice. You can remove the mark and return to your normal life, or you can keep it and accept what it means. What does it mean? It means you are connected to us, to our traditions, to our hunt. If you keep the mark, you become something new, not quite prey, not quite hunter, something between. His eyes gleamed. You become a reminder that even predators can learn new things. Looked down at her arm. The wound had begun to heal. The burned skin was turning into a scar. In a few months, the mark would be permanent. She thought about removing it, going back to her quiet life, pretending this had never happened. Then she thought about all the other weak creatures on all the other stations across the galaxy, about what it would mean if she walked away. I will keep it, she said. Nodded slowly. I thought you might say that. You are a strange species, humans. You are not the strongest. You are not the fastest. You are not but you have something that I have not seen in many other species. What is that? You care about creatures who are not your own kind. You protect them. You fight for them. You hurt yourselves to help them. He shook his head. We do not understand this, but I am beginning to think that perhaps we should. He raised one of his 4 arms and made a gesture. Along the walls bowed their heads. Go now, human. Tell your friend that he is safe. Tell him that the will not hunt him. Tell him that he has been marked as worthy. Bowed her head in return. It felt like the right thing to do. Thank you, she said. Do not thank me, you earned this, both of you. Turned away. Now go before I change my mind. Left the trophy room. She walked through the hot, heavy corridors. She passed through the border into normal station space. And there was, waiting exactly where he had promised. What happened? He asked. His face was tight with worry. Looked at him, and for the first time in days she smiled, really smiled. Is safe, the hunt is over. Stared at her. How? What did you say to them? I reminded them that even the weakest cub is not alone, and sometimes that is all it takes. She walked past him toward the section of the station. She had good news to deliver, and for the first time since she had found crying in that dark corridor, she felt like she could breathe again. Behind her shook his head in wonder. Then he followed her, a small smile on his own face. Humans, they were the strangest species in the galaxy, and sometimes that was exactly what the galaxy needed. The ceremony was held in the central atrium of Horizon's Edge. This was the largest open space on the station. The ceiling was made of clear glass, and through it, you could see the endless stars of the galaxy spinning slowly past. Normally, this space was used for trade fairs and diplomatic meetings. Today, it was filled with something that had never happened before. Nearly 1,000 beings from 40 different species stood in a wide circle around the center of the atrium. Word of the ceremony had spread across the station, and everyone wanted to see it. Traders stopped their deals. Engineers left their machines. Even the station administrator floated in a corner, watching with its strange, faceless attention. In the center of the circle stood Commander. His scales gleamed under the artificial lights. His 4 eyes moved slowly across the crowd, taking in every face. Beside him stood, looking very small next to the massive. The young was shaking, could see his fur rippling from across the room, but he was standing. He was not running. That took more courage than most people would ever understand. Stood at the edge of the circle beside her. Her arm still ached where the burn mark was healing. She wondered if it would ever stop hurting. She decided she did not care. Raised one of his arms for silence. The murmuring crowd fell quiet. We are here to witness a change, said. His deep voice carried across the atrium without any need for machines to make it louder. Many of you know what the hunt mark means. It is a mark of weakness, a mark of prey. For generations, my people have used it to choose those we consider unfit to exist among the stars. He paused. The silence was heavy. But we were wrong. The crowd stirred. Whispers ran through the gathered species like wind through tall grass, did not admit mistakes. This was not something anyone had expected. This was marked for the hunt. He was chosen because he was small, because he was gentle, because he could not fight back, looked down at. I thought these things made him weak. I thought he was nothing but prey to be chased and killed. He turned to look at. Their eyes met across the crowded room. I was taught a different lesson. A human woman saw my mark on this creature and burned the same mark into her own flesh. She came to me alone, in my territory, surrounded by my warriors. She told me that if I wanted to hunt the weak, I would have to hunt her too. And she meant it. The crowd turned to look at. She felt hundreds of eyes on her. She kept her face still and did not look away from. That human showed me something I had forgotten. Strength is not just about muscles and claws and teeth. Strength is also about standing for others, about protecting those who cannot protect themselves, about being willing to suffer for something you believe in. Reached down and took's arm gently. The flinched but did not pull away. The old mark I placed on this creature was the mark of prey. Today I remove it. In its place I give him a new mark, the mark of the worthy. He picked up a ceremonial tool from a small table beside him. It was similar to the one that had burned the original mark into his shoulder, but this one glowed with a different color. Instead of angry red, it shimmered with cool blue light. Pressed the tool to his shoulder. There was a soft hissing sound but did not cry out. When pulled the tool away, the old mark was gone. In its place was a new symbol. It looked like a circle with 4 lines reaching outward, like a small sun. "This one is claimed by the Dominion," announced. His voice rang through the atrium. "He is worthy, he is protected, to hunt him is to hunt us." The crowd was silent for a long moment. Then, from somewhere in the back, began to make a high singing sound. It was their way of crying with joy. Others joined in, and soon the sound filled the atrium like music. Other species began to applaud in their own ways. Some stamped their feet. Some clicked their claws. Some simply stood and watched with expressions of wonder on their strange faces. Looked around at the crowd, his large eyes wet with tears. Then he smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. After the ceremony, the crowd slowly broke apart. People returned to their lives, their trading, their work. But something had changed. Everyone on the station could feel it. The old rules, the old fears, the old ways of looking at strength and weakness, they all seemed a little less solid now. Found standing by one of the large windows, she was looking out at the stars. "You did not have to do this," said softly. "You are not. You did not know me before I came to this station. Why did you help me?" Looked down at the small, gentle creature. She thought about the question for a long moment. "Where I come from," she said finally, "we have an old idea. It is hard to translate perfectly, but it means something like, family is not just about blood, family is about choice. You can choose who you care about. You can choose who you protect." She touched the scar on her arm. "When I saw what they did to you, I made a choice. I chose to treat you like family. I chose to stand with you. And once I made that choice, I could not walk away." Reached up with his small hands and touched the scar on her arm. His fingers were soft and warm. "You carry my mark now," he said. "What does that mean to you?" Smiled. It was a real smile, full and warm. "It means I will never forget this. It means that for the rest of my life, whenever someone asks about this scar, I will tell them the story. I will tell them about a young who was marked for death. I will tell them about the hunters who learned that marking the weakest cub means marking all of us who choose to stand with them." She put her hand gently on his head, ruffling his soft fur. "And I will tell them that weakness is not what they think. Real weakness is hunting those who cannot fight back. Real strength is choosing to protect them anyway." Closed his eyes and leaned into her touch. For a moment, they stood together in silence, watching the stars spin past the window. In the weeks and months that followed, the story spread. Traders carried it to distant stations. Diplomats mentioned it in meetings with other species. Scholars wrote about it in academic papers. And slowly, other humans on the station began to get small tattoos on their wrists. 3 lines crossing inside a broken circle, but inverted. Not the mark of prey, the mark of those who stand for prey. It was not a rule. No one forced them to do it, but it became a tradition, a way of saying we remember, a way of saying we choose to protect those who need protection. The still hunted. It was their nature, but they never marked another station resident again. They had learned something they would not forget. Even predators can learn new things. Even hunters can find new respect for the weak. And even the smallest, gentlest creature in the galaxy is never truly alone, as long as there are humans willing to stand beside them. Park stayed on Horizon's edge for another 10 years. She helped other species in other conflicts. She made other hard choices. She earned other scars. But she never forgot the first one, the burn on her arm that meant everything, the mark that changed how the galaxy saw humanity, the mark that said we are the ones who stand for the weakest cub. And we always will.